Today on Erix Reviews, we're taking a look at Morbius, the much ballyhooed and then excessively delayed debut film adventure of a classic Spider-Man villain, here recast, much like Venom before him, as an anti-hero. Jared Leto stars, along with Matt Smith, Adria Arjona, Al Madrigal, Tyrese Gibson, and Jared Harris. The film was directed by Daniel Espinosa. Let's take a look.
What if?
I can't. Michael Morbius. You've been given a gift.
Not exactly.
Time to let go of what you used to be. Discover who you're meant to be.
All our lives we've lived with death. Why shouldn't they know what it feels like for a change? Just accept who you are.
The bad guy. Morbius.
This movie's release was delayed by almost 2 years, and there was much rejiggering behind the scenes, quite a bunch of reshoots and re-edits, and all the usual perils of big-ticket commercial filmmaking, to the point that what we ended up with is probably very different from what was originally intended. But there's no sense in lamenting what we didn't get. We can only contemplate what it is we were finally given. And there's no way to know if this is somehow considerably better or considerably worse than what we would have gotten had this movie actually come out at least a year and a half before it finally did. There's no way to know if the original intentions were noble, but in any case, what we ended up with is not very good. And let me add to that, it also isn't particularly terrible either, it just it just is. I honestly don't understand why this movie was made, other than to hold on to character rights. It could have been based on any sort of demand for this character on film, and it's not like having Jared Leto as a headlining comic book hero was a prospect that was automatically going to set the world on fire. Sorry, 30 Seconds to Mars fans, but facts are facts. Besides, the last time Leto had played a comic book character, and a pretty iconic one at that, he had shit the bed so royally one would think Sony Pictures literally had garlic hanging on the door just to keep him from even approaching the office complex. But in any case, this was apparently a real passion project for Leto, and more power to him that the movie was actually made. And to be fair, he's actually pretty good in it. He plays a pretty straightforward heroic role that isn't given quite as many complex shadings as might have been interesting, at least not in the theatrical cut of the film, which again is all I can speak to at this point. But for whatever it's worth, when the title character first comes to be, he does in fact slaughter a bunch of people, and not necessarily in self-defense. And I thought that was good, unlike something like the classic Stallone movie Assassins, a much better movie than this, but that's not my point, where the movie is engineered so the protagonist, who happens to be employed as a mafia hitman, never actually kills anybody until the very end when he just kills the bad guy. But this is not that. Morbius is a monster at first, and so there is a believable sense of character-based stakes. You understand why he is actually horrified at what he's become, and why he will do anything he can to cure himself, and certainly to prevent anyone else from gaining this dark gift. That someone else, by the way, is Matt Smith, also very good in the scene-stealing, British-accented and dryly humorous role of, yes, of course, Morbius's best friend, a rich kid suffering from the same weird blood disease, and who also turns into a monster while trying to find a cure, except, yeah, he relishes being a monster. And whatever, familiar plot construction and tired story beats are to be expected, and they wouldn't be a big deal if the movie on a whole were interesting or particularly entertaining, but it isn't. It's just kind of a dumb, boring movie. And that's really the sad thing, because it didn't have to be. There was potential here. You notice the movie flirting with ideas of body horror. You see the bits and pieces of a compelling narrative about duality and the lengths one will go to for their personal ambitions when they feel broken and in desperate need to fix themselves. And then, added to the fact the movie is kind of boring, it doesn't even look particularly good. The action scenes are dull and visually turgid. Attempts were made to make the action dynamic by adding weird auras around Morbius and, I can't be bothered to look his name up, Spartacus, Icarus, whatever the fuck Matt Smith's name is. Anyway, there's hazy wind lines and glowing auras around them whenever they're jumping around and flying around and stuff, and I guess it's supposed to look cool, but it just looks kind of silly. And that's just it. I'm sure this movie was supposed to be cool, and I'm sure everyone involved thought they were making a cool movie, but what they ended up with is just silly, and not even enjoyably silly, and not really worth your time. Hey, I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel and share the video. There's going to be some cool stuff coming to the channel, so you're going to want to keep track of it, and I hope you like all that stuff too. See ya.